this video, I want to show off a presentation and demo of a really fantastic tool that allows you to tear apart a FileMaker solution to identify how the solution is created and where potential holes or bugs are in your FileMaker solution. Now, the solution is called InspectorPro 5, and it's by Vince Bonanno, who works with beeswax out of California. So what does this solution do? Well, in short, this solution will do an analysis on a FileMaker solution and will allow you to do an analysis on each specific object, field, script, any specific thing in FileMaker, and click on it and see how it affects the rest of the solution. So say, for example, that you are interested in a ID field or a key field, for example, and you click on it in this analysis. It will show you how it is being used elsewhere in the FileMaker solution. So currently in FileMaker, if you have a field in the field definitions, you really can't easily see what other scripts are calling it, what other relationships necessarily are using it. I mean, you could figure that out by digging through the relational diagram and looking, but there's no easy way of just clicking on it and seeing how everything is cross-connected. Certainly where all the scripts are that use it, there's no easy way of seeing these things. That's one possibility. Another way that I really use InspectorPro 5 is before we ship FM Starting Point, we run an analysis of FM Starting Point and we say, show us all the known holes or known bugs in FM Starting Point. But when I say bug, I don't mean like FM Starting Point behaves in an unexpected way. I mean like you run a script and the script says go to a layout, but the layout doesn't exist. I mean, that's like an obvious hole or a bug to where InspectorPro can determine that something is broke. Not a little bit broke, but really broke. So you have orphaned scripts, orphaned layouts, orphaned objects, things like that, things that are obvious to find. And after we do a lot of work in a FileMaker solution, we're ripping, tearing, pulling, building like a sandcastle, and then we test it. We know the functionality is good. But along the way, we might have created a couple fields that were test fields, or we might have created a couple test layouts. And the engineers get busy and they're working hard and they forget about it, right? And so this is our way of helping to go back through and cleaning up the solution. So this tool actually helps us create a punch list of known issues for us to go back and clean up. Now, does it show where all the bugs are? No. We'll have users who use the tool who will say, well, I pressed this button and I expected it to behave a different way. So the expected behavior is something different. And of course, that's a user experience thing that InspectorPro can't automatically detect. But a script that is obviously broken, that's something that InspectorPro can identify for us so we can go and specifically fix it. And then after we fix all the items, we run it again, and then we get a clean bill of health for our solution, and then we ship it. So without further ado, I want to introduce Vince Bonanno, the author and architect of this solution. Now, up front, I want to warn you that there are not a lot of explosions or other high moments of excitement with this demo, but pay attention, because if you understand what this solution brings to the table, I think you're going to see the real value of what InspectorPro can do for you and your FileMaker development.
For all the people there at home, we need to know what this product does. So Vince is about to tell us that.
Okay, so Inspector takes the output from the DDR, the Database Design Report.
Which comes from what?
From FileMaker Pro Advanced.
So you have to buy Advanced.
You have to use Advanced to generate the DDR, and the DDR is generated in two flavors, HTML and XML. And Inspector will use only the XML version of the output. So you have to output it and save it as XML. And once you've done that, for all the files that are open in full access, you'll get a file, an XML representation, metadata of your solution in XML form. And there'll be one summary file to represent all the database files. So you point Inspector to that summary file, and then it'll understand how many files you generated in that process. And what it does is it parses that data and brings it in a cross-referenced manner so that you can see everything rather than have to wade through a bunch of XML.
So what does it do? What does it tell us?
So it tells you where things are referenced. It shows you where problems are, and You can find. I mean, basically that's it. Those are the main things: dependencies, references, and problems.
So it tells us about the file, it tells us about our solution.
Yeah, tells you, where, for example, where you're using the field, where you're using the script, etc. But it has some interesting and unique ways of doing that, which I'll cover when I do the demo. And that's what you're going to show us. And that's what I'm going to show you.
Right on.
All right. So these slides I'm going through real quick is kind of comparing version 4 to version 5. So right now we did a lot of user interface improvements. I'll show some movies of how the performance is improved as well. Performance improvements, as you know, when you're working with FileMaker, if you have fields that are indexed with text fields, text field indexes, they're heavier than numeric fields. So what we did is, the DDR has a lot of these little bits and pieces that say true or false. They come in as true or false. We optimized at that level everything where we could see true or false to Boolean values, and we saw a noticeable improvement in performance in just doing that. The plugin is 64-bit in this version, even though FileMaker is not 64-bit. So we run a separate process in 64-bit mode. So the plugin is able to use a lot more memory and can parse really large files. And we'll show a demo of that. The dependency table went from 88 fields to 52 indexes to 37 fields and 18 indexes. And a lot of those 52 indexes were text-based indexes. So we got really smarter at condensing and being smart about what gets, in what place and how it gets categorized. The other important thing to note is that the dependency table is like the grand central station of everything. So you have a script, it depends on a field. A field is referenced by a layout. It's in that table. So the maximum amount of interaction and work all comes from the dependency table. And so the more work that we can do to squeeze performance out of that, the faster the whole thing is. So that's kind of like the, activity monitor view of InspectorPro, and that's what it looks like in Inspector5 when it's parsing the DDR. You get your money's worth out of your CPU.
Really?
So, yeah, so let's see. This is what version 4 used to kind of get in addition to what we were getting from the DDR, and this is what we do in version 5. So we do a lot more additional information. And so, as an example, if you looking at your script steps, you can certainly go into find mode and say show me every place I use show custom dialog. But that's not very efficient, because what you're doing is you've indexed that very large blob of text in the script steps table, and there's a lot of script steps. What we do is we normalize all the script steps in the solution and let you look at it from the script step perspective. So you could just go to that step and see all the references of that step. So that's just kind of an example of what data is. We do more than 90 tables so we went from 90 tables to 150 tables. So a lot of stuff is normalized. Compatibility information of all the versions of FileMaker, all the new features when they were introduced are listed in script steps, in layout objects, in...
That could be handy.
Yeah, so
that's actually a big deal.
So you could actually just go to the versions and say, hey, this solution is not using anything older than 12. Or this started already using version 13 features. The way we deal with omissions in the DDR is we have our own custom tags. So if you want to take the effort to actually build these into your solution, you can actually rest assured that that field will get picked up and set and referenced for that place where it's omitted. So sub-summary parts, they don't now currently export the field that is used for that sub-summary part.
Really?
So if that's the only thing that field is used, you'll show up in the DDR, it'll say, it's not referenced. But if you put in a tag that looks something like this here, so INSP : sub-summary field, and then a merge field of that field, Inspector will read that tag and label it as.
Where would you put that at? I don't understand.
You could put that, so like in layout mode, in that gray area on the right, you could just put that in the area. It doesn't matter where.
As a piece of text?
As a piece of text, but this has to be a merge field. Because once it's a merge field, FileMaker will pick it up as a reference to that field. Okay. User interface improvements. We have no more form views like we did in version 4. So everything is list view. And we make use of popovers. So problems show up immediately. They didn't show up immediately before. So that's a big deal. You'll see that when we look at it. However, you'll still be able to run detection and comparison reports. So UI is greatly simplified, and one of the things that we did was, if I open up the other version, you'll see that we had a lot more clutter. So we went to, when we started this new overhaul, we took 3 things into consideration: where you are, what you're looking at, and how many references. Those are the first 3 things that were the most important things to look at, and then from there we just added the rest. And so this navigation bar is pretty much the same as the old version, but what's gone is the sub-navigation bar, because now the sub-navigation bar is in popovers. So you click on scripts, and then you'll see scripts, script steps, all the script triggers, etc., etc. So we reduced the clutter by actually condensing things into popovers. So it's a lot better. Again, popovers, as you see here, and they're very, very effective at saving space. So InspectorPro 5, in summary, speed improvements, detail and accuracy. We went the extra mile to categorize everything you can imagine about a solution. Compatibility and information, also available in the visualizations, which I'll show you when we get there. So a lot of user interface improvements, native finds, reveal immediate problems. That was one of the things that we were missing. Version 3 had that. Version 4 kind of said, you got to go to detection, choose your preferences, and then run it. So what people were finding was when they ran a DDR, they didn't see any problems. So we kind of brought that back, and that's good. Very important.
Gets pulled all out of there, and we'll just do it all. All right.
Okay, so I ran it, and it took 4 minutes, almost 5 minutes to run. So you can see that up here. It found 64 problems. There's 10,000, 12 calculations, 126,000 dependencies, and total number of elements just under 200,000. So the first thing that you'll notice is that we still have what we always had. On this side is the list of all your solutions. I want to track another solution. Just pop in a name, hit return, then start importing DDRs. Okay. So I have 2 solutions so far in this copy of Inspector. I have a copy of DivvyUp that we use at the office, and I have 2 analyses of it, and I have starting point. So pretty much everything here is you kind of just you drill into the views. So like if I want to look at my scripts for that solution, I could just click here, and here's a list of all my scripts. Again, everything is in a list view, and I'll explain what's visible here. So it's sub-summarized by the database. So if you happen to be, let's say, far enough down, you don't know what database you're in, you can just hover over there. It'll tell you the database. This is the script name. Anything you select, right, gets listed up here. So there's the database. The database, the script name, the number of steps in it, and the group that it's in. So here's the group that script is in. These columns here, as you can imagine, these are Macintosh compatibility, Windows, server. So I can see at a glance that this script
so the little slash means it won't work on servers?
Yeah, it has incompatible server-side script steps.
At the top, there's a little horseshoe thingy.
Yeah, like up here. So this is run with full access. There's tooltips on top of these. Run with full access, and this is included in a menu.
And what is the horseshoe?
These 2 columns mean the percent of comments in your script and percent of white space.
That's a great way that you guys suck at.
Okay. So
white space percents are going to be really high.
Yeah,
Everyone else's suck.
Okay, so
Sorry.
so you can tell at a glance here, like if I compare this script, like that has a lot of comments and 0 white space. So if I look at it, I can click on the steps. It's got a lot of comments, no white space, just comments. Almost 50% of it is comments. So there's different ways you can get around here. All right, now the important thing, I think, one of the most important and asked about questions is references. But before I go there, I'm going left to right, so let me show you one other thing. In Inspector, we have this like security thing over here, and what you can do is you can look at your scripts from the perspective of a privilege set. And so you could overlay that, and instantly you can tell whether or not something is executable. In this case, it's all executable. It doesn't look like
we ship it pretty strict.
Yeah.
That's simple.
So, but the cool thing is that this would work across files if the privilege sets are named the same. Unfortunately, we can't do it by ID because they would get out of sync from one file to another. So as long as let's say you have 3 files in your solution and you have a user privilege, if that user privilege is named user in all 3 files, this will synchronize across all of them. So you can say if they're logging in as user, they have access to scripts in this file and that file, et cetera, et cetera. So
that's really cool.
And then the most asked about question is, where is this friggin' thing referenced, right? So like over here, you'll see as you hover, you'll have a dependencies. So you'll have a dependencies, objects this item depends on, and then references, objects that refer to this item. Okay.
So if you click on that, what
so
do you get?
so what you do is you get a popover and tells you all the places where this script is being referenced. Okay, so
including like layouts and things.
Yeah, including
those are all
so like
scripts, right? But
well, if you have, let's see, if you have one with layouts here, let's see there. So that's a group button. So that's on a layout. It tells you the coordinates of where it is,
right.
And it tells you what the object number is. And
see all those L's right? Those are all layout numbers. See, we're really like meticulous about that.
Yeah, those are layout numbers. Over here, however, these are left, top, right, and bottom.
Yeah, those are coordinates. Those can be
coordinates. If you want to, and you're kind of working in troubleshooting, let's say this script, for example, you can tear this window off, and you can have this window open all the time, so that you can drill into where that object is. So I want to go look at this button where that script is attached to it. I could click there, and it'll take me into all the objects on that layout, and it shows me that that script is attached to this button, and it's at this location, et cetera, et cetera. The other cool thing is that, I don't know if you noticed this, but I got to go back 1 second. Hold on. Go back. So like over here is an option down here. It says isolated or in context. So what's interesting is, let's look at something else here. Let's look at this. So these are scripts. So if I go isolated, and I go look at this script being this script is referenced by another script, so it performs that script and this script here, right? It's kind of hard to get a sense as to where it is and all that. But if you instead, you go to here and you say in context, now when you look at that, you have it in context of the entire script, which is really cool. So that gives you a rough feel for all this. Again, what I was saying before about steps. So I have all my steps here. There's 14,409 steps in your entire solution, and what you're looking at now is step 22 out of 111. So I could show all the steps, right? And like I said before, I could search in here for find me every time I use show custom dialog, but that would not be very efficient. The other way to do that would be to go to the steps, and in steps, again, here's the version number. That's introduced in version 13. This was introduced in version 8. So you can see where things were what versions things were introduced in. But if we go to let's see here, show custom dialog, we'll see 205 references of it. And these are all the places where you use show custom dialog. So you look at the data from a different perspective. Okay, and you can do this level of detail on any one of these things down here. So base menus, current script values, languages, layout destinations. Have you ever wondered, like, am I using go to layout by name? Where am I using go to layout by name, or go to layout by by number? Those kinds of things, right? And the other interesting thing is why are there two numbers here rather than single numbers over here? So single numbers here tell me that I have 729 scripts in this solution, but there are two numbers here, and what those two numbers mean, if we look, for example, at let's say look at operator. Oh, operators is a bad example. Let me think. Yeah, let's look at languages. So so you're using English and you're using French, and you have references. You have 1,060 references of using English. So English might be the index for whatever search index on a field. In some places you're using French as an index for something.
Someone's in trouble. Ain't supposed to be no French in there.
So what that was telling you is that out of all the languages, you're using two of them, and there's 1,074 references in all of those two. So there's two values there.
Oh, because like you said, for layout destinations, there's like 4 or 5 different destinations.
Yeah. So like there's you're using 4 of the 5.
Okay.
So you can go original layout, by selected layout, layout by layout name by calculation, layout number,
Oh, it's like
and current layout.
And if you add 50, if you add 50 plus 9, 968 plus 1 plus 49, you get the other number.
You get this number here, 1,068.
Makes total sense. That's awesome.
Cool.
Hey, so real quick, so up there under summary, you have problems. I saw that. Is that like a complete to the right? Well, you got that one there too. Oh, I see it 2 spots there. Okay, great.
Yeah. So like if I just want to isolate problems.
Yeah, I say. I tell my junior engineers, hey, go unkey starting point before we ship it.
Okay. Right? Well, let's say I was just going to work on scripts. So I can go click on here, and I can see all my scripts. I can scrub through here until I find a problem. There's problems in this script.
Can you sort them all together?
Here's sort, and something is wrong with that sort. There must be some fields missing or something.
What's the cup? It's a server. Okay, it's time out. What's the coffee cup?
What's the coffee cup? Coffee cup, it means it's commented out. It's disabled. Okay, so let me show you some other way to do with this. Instead of clicking on scripts, I can click on the warning triangle. Now I have all the scripts that have problems isolated in one group. Click here. So that's a sort problem.
It seems simpler to use than base on.
And then here.
So
this
we're going to need like a license for this.
This one here is a real problem. So you have a script here.
Yeah, it's unknown.
That's unknown. So that's broken.
Before we ship it.
So let's so let's, what is this? 1262, 12. But
yeah.
So there's your problem right there. Okay.
Oh yeah. That's supposed to be broke because Todd Guy's software's not in there. Yeah, we shipped that one.
Oh yeah. So
they have to buy Todd's software and then glue it in, and then they connect that, and then his software works.
Oh, okay, cool. So that's problems.
That's the only one that's supposed to be broke.
Well, there's a few others, but
no, I know. Yeah.
It might be buttons or stuff like that are broken.
That is cool.
So we added. So we brought back some of the visualizations. The visualizations are really cool. So let me show you some of those. A new one that we added is a scatter plot. So we added a scatter plot to show you. So you only have one database here, but if you had more than one database, you could see a list of databases. You have field count on the y-axis. You have percent index on the x-axis. The size of the circle is the number of records in that table. So in this example, you have 1,000 records. Comparatively speaking, you have a small solution with not a lot of records here, 39. But the interesting thing is that this has got it out of the let's see here, record count. You've got how many fields in here? You've got probably about field count 5. Sorry, I'll zoom in a little bit. You've got a field count of 5. You have 1,000 records in it, and your percent index is 20%. So like if you can imagine a solution with millions of records, lots of fields, and a lot of the fields that can be indexed are indexed, you'd end up with big circles in the top right corner. So like you're looking at someone's solution and all you see is big round circles in that top corner, run. Okay, so this is an interesting diagram.
I suppose it's better than big circles in the top left.
Yeah, big circles, yeah, that's also a problem because you have lots of fields, performance issue both ways. So you basically want to have large circles either down here or down here. You know, if you have a small set of fields and they're all indexed, it's a join table. Maybe that's what it is. So that's that one. The other one that's we're kind of famous for is this one, and I don't know if you've ever seen your data in this way, but
That's the one that blew everyone's mind.
yeah. So this is cool because we've enhanced this to make it more functional, and we refer to this as the Death Star. So when you zoom out, you'll see what I mean. So there's your Death Star.
I think you got an award for this one year, didn't you?
No, I never won an award on this.
Really? You should have.
So what's interesting is every solution kind of gives a different picture. But what's interesting is also like, so let's zoom in here a little bit. Okay, so here's a script and all of the things that are referencing that script. Okay, so if you look, you'll see little black borders on some of these guys, right? So these black borders mean that the script runs with full access. Okay, so actually, is that right? Yeah. No, they don't actually. These don't have black borders. It must be the monitor is giving me like some artifact. The interesting thing is when you look at diagrams like this, is you can immediately tell that there's a lot of reuse of code, which is good. I mean, taking advantage of the fact that like, okay, I have a script, I'll reuse it, I'll pass parameters to it, but whatever you do not delete the script. Okay, so the other cool thing about this diagram is that you can instantly spot where problems are about all the interactions with your scripts. I have a layout here that is having a problem. It's not attached to a script, or it has a trigger or something associated with it, but there's no script attached to it. That's why.
So a triangle is a layout?
A triangle is a layout. A square, so you have a ways to disable parts of these things so you can focus on, yeah.
Wow,
so like,
this is...
I can turn off all these things, and what you end up with is basically just scripts referencing scripts. So here's a script that has a problem. That we probably looked at that already. And let's see. So again, like in the big picture, what we saw before was you had 3 scripts. So there's 1, there's 2, and there's 3. Okay. The cool thing about this too is we've done a lot of enhancements on the performance of this and the filtering, and it's all SVG. It's scalable vector graphics. You can actually see bacteria growing on your script. So if you leave it too long in the sunlight. Okay. If you open this up in FileMaker, you have the interactability of the FMP URL. I can, for example, click on here, and I can go to the script and go to the steps and see where the problem is. I mean, yeah. In Inspector, in the future, we are looking into being able to do this.
Wow.
Yeah, going to the script and selecting the step. We're looking into that. So anyway, but at least it'll take you into context here, and you can see what's going on. So I mean, so far, all we've explored is scripts, but there's fields and there's value lists and all kinds of things. So same thing applies to here. I can show and overlay security. In this case, this is I don't know if I label it as a FileMaker bug, but really if you have a, none for the fields, or they're limited, and you don't check off any of the fields, the DDR doesn't output, like, this field is accessible or viewable or whatever. So what we end up with is there's a restriction, but we don't have the details about the restriction. So, anyway, that's there. Its layouts are, fields, it's much more dense because there's a lot of information. And so we have field information, data type, repetition, global, auto index, index, all the different types, normal, calculated, summary. You can use these to find all my calculation fields. I can summary all my summary fields, et cetera, et cetera. Then you have this auto enter area in blue, validation in orange, and then local storage in kind of a light green. And the same thing applies here. Anywhere in your solution, you have references. You'll have it in the far right. Dependencies are next to it. And so here's all my references for this field. Again, I can open up a tearaway window and use that to go and kind of, let's say you wanted to remove this field. I could open up that tearaway window, bring it aside, and start looking through where it is and rewiring it, whatever. Again, these things here where you set wherever you see true and false, you can search on those. Those are indicators that are Boolean values, but they're showing T and F to show that, right? So I can go in here and I can just type, show me all the true values. Just put in a 1 in there, and now you're looking at all my global fields across the entire solution. Calculations, auto enter calcs, they're in here. There's that auto enter calc. There's a calculation field. If I have validation calculations, they would be somewhere with a popover as well too. But so you have filters, so you can look by data type. I want to look at all my text fields. I can, all my date fields. Okay, those are quick filters by type.
Pick a field in contacts. Let's pick account name and contacts. There's a field called account name and contacts. Let's see everything that touches that as an
all right,
exercise.
So base table, which one? Contacts?
Contacts.
This one?
Yeah.
Okay, so these are your base tables.
Base tables.
I can look at my occurrences by clicking here. I could go directly to fields from here. So I was looking at fields before, right? So it shows me all the fields, but I can narrow in by going in from the table perspective. So click here. Here's all my fields and contacts.
Okay, it's called account. Now, can we resort this list, or is it just
What do you want to sort it by?
Just by the alpha name of the field.
Okay, so name.
Okay.
And
put that at the top.
Okay.
So then account name would be at the top. Now I want to see everywhere where that's being referenced. How do we do that?
Right here. See this 49 references. This is the references column. So there's all the places where this field is referenced.
So then we can do a tear-off list by hitting that down.
Click this guy right here. There's your tear-off list, and they're grouped now. So here's all my field references of this field. Okay. So that's referenced in a calculation. These are layout object references, so the field on the layout. These are script step references where the field is set in, so it tells you what it is here. By import records, by sort records, by set field, referenced in a chunk of a step calculation at step 17.
And the reason I mention this, there are situations like you get a database where suddenly a field will become corrupted. You actually literally have to remove the field, say the clone of the database, and then build the field back in, and you've got to rebuild all this stuff. Doesn't happen too often, but it can happen, and you need a complete punch list of the damage that you have to rebuild.
Wow. Okay.
Well, it doesn't happen too often with us. We're pretty careful, but it has happened, and whoever you are, you have to rebuild it.
Right.
They did do that.
I have to do it a lot.
Yeah.
So
Okay, question. Yeah.
Can you print that Death Star thing?
Print a Death Star?
Well, you can screenshot it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, you could do this. Oh, I didn't show that. This is cool. So you can go to the so right next to any of the visualizations, there's like a little gear, and I can say I want to save it as a file. I want to email it. Okay. So when you generate it, okay. So let me show you. Look at my desktop here. So there's there's
Took us so long to generate it.
Yeah. Special. Many Boffin spies died to bring us this email.
there you go. So you can save it out as a file and just send it to somebody. But the only thing is they won't have the interaction. So they can see all the things. They'll get all the tooltips. Like if you hover on something, they'll get a tooltip. They'll see what it is. So it's it's informative from that perspective. Or you could send it to the client. Say when you do get solutions from people. Let me see if I can isolate this. So, for example, when you get solutions from novice users, like you end up seeing a lot of patterns like this, where they write a script, they attach it to a button. They write a script, they attach it to a button. And so, in your case, you have a lot of reuse of code. But what ends up happening is you don't see any of these patterns. Those patterns are not there. What you end up seeing is a lot of these little guys like this, just offshoots of like a script, a button, a script, a button. And so the picture looks very different. Like I said, this is starting point, so you get an idea of what it looks like. If we go look at divvy up, it's a completely different picture.
What's divvy up?
Divvy up is oh, sorry. Yeah, I have it set for output. So this is divvy up.
Is it one of your products or?
This is an internal tool that we use. It's a very small solution, but you can tell there's it's a modest solution. It's not a lot of stuff. So there's one script that has a problem in there.
Well, starting points like this, like massive share.
Yeah. So and you can tell there's some of these things too here, right? It's a solution that's just brand new, maybe a few months old. It's been in development for a while, but we just kind of put it in place. But it just serves one purpose. So it's very, very, very focused. Anyway, every solution paints a different picture. And to dovetail on that subject, there's two other visualizations that I want to show you. And you thought that was cool. Let me show you one other one. Okay, array. Okay, so you know how look at a calculation and it's like, oh, it's referencing this field and the field is unstored and it's calling this custom function and it's doing recursion and it's like, man, it's a mess, because it's just taking a long time. You give that field on a layout and things are slow. Well, this will give you insights into like the actual stack. So it's the stack of like not only how far out it goes, but circular and self-referent, like
it's on Google Charts. What do they call that kind of charts?
Yeah, you can do this with scripts too.
Can you output it to a mind?
That I have never tried, but you can export this.
Because then you can do all kinds of documentation and the customer. I mean, you can do it with this too.
But these are interactable too, so I can collapse these. Okay.
So basically, this is a mind map.
Is that what you call a mind map? Yeah. So there's this, and you can do this with scripts too. So if I go to scripts and I go look at, I don't know, a good one here, but maybe this one would do it. Let's see. Window, expandable. I don't want all steps because all script steps would be huge. Yeah. So what you want is just perform script on server, install timer, right? So you want where the activity goes and branches. I mean, you could do like all the other stuff, but so yeah. I mean, this is a bad example, and let me see if I have a better one. Yeah, I don't have a good one for this to show you, but you get the idea, right? You could see the entire chain of like what's happening. Unfortunately, it doesn't know the branch that it would take because you might have conditions in there to branch out something. But yeah, it gives you the possibilities.
The reason I asked is because I have, I use a lot of modular scripts. And sometimes you can just compose them.
Oh yeah.
It's
right.
Like, you want to see the overall picture of what you just composed, and it's kind of hard to do it.
Yeah, let me see if I can find a better example. Unfortunately, I don't think I'm set up for that. Hold on. Maybe this guy.
Nice.
Okay, well, a little bit. Okay, so like if I were to do this with all the steps included, Takes a little longer. Oh, darn it. Hold on. There we go.
There we go.
Okay, so the cool thing is that you can turn off compatibility, can turn on compatibility. So there's steps in here that are not server compatible. Okay, so like what's cool about this is that whether it's at the granular level or at the collapse level, if I collapse this, I'll see right away that there are steps downstream that are not server compatible from that call.
Even though that particular call is.
Even though that particular call is, there are
That's fine.
downstream steps that are not compatible. That's why it changes from blue, so it goes from blue to orange, because
So
you know that there's stuff downstream.
How do you activate that? It's
that
called a
gets
what?
another-
This is called the script tree.
Script tree?
So like you go to here, this is the click to visualize script tree for the selected script.
'Cause I don't
And
know how
here
to
the
this. I've been sitting
same
there
thing
with
here. You can
a notepad.
generate a file, email it, whatever. And you know, I've seen fields that have like this. Oh my God, like that field. Don't put that field on a layout, or you're asking for trouble, because it's like all these unstored calcs that it depends on and other functions, and
Custom functions.
yeah, like it's just really nasty. So, and then you know you can find that problem, and if you have a way to visualize it, you can kind of express it to the customer and say, yeah. So, so that's script tree, calculation tree, the scatter plot, and the script universe. Those are the four visualizations that we have in version 5, and there's some other ones that we're looking to do in the next version. Again, things are normalized in different ways. So like if I were to look at your solution and go to let's see, where was it? Layout. Where was it? Layout objects. So we have, out of your solution, we're using all the layout objects. So every single layout object, a drop-down list, a field drop-down list, a field drop-down menu, a group button, pop-over buttons. This is giving you a view of every reference of those types of layout objects. So that's, you know, that kind of different insight into the data. So that's, you know, the data in general, and relationships are kind of cool to look at, because you have it nicely organized left and right, cascading, create, delete, and sort. And then right in the middle, you have a nice view of the database that it's referenced, what table, et cetera, et cetera. So, what's that? And then the fields, yeah. And so do you have one with multiple predicates? Let's see here. Oh, here. There's one right above it. Right here, this guy.
Oh, there you go.
Okay. And so, like, you have cross product and an equijoin. If you go back to, or you can go right here, other, and you have operators. You can see my equijoin, my Cartesian product is on these following relationships. Okay, and I could just click there and go to the relationship. And
So this is what you've been working on.
yeah.
You personally you're the guy on this.
Yeah.
It was already well understood in the relationship.
Yeah, I think so. Everyone.
I'm not done. I'm not done yet.
All right.
Okay.
We gotta do it last video.
Okay. Thank you. So there's a comparison view. Okay.
Excellent.
So we're always trying to improve this, but the last version, it's a challenge, because if you do turn on all these things, it can take some time. And we've been asking for FileMaker to give us IDs at the sub-level, like steps, script steps,
Right.
menu items, and layout objects. We got layout object IDs by the fact that they had to do CSS, right? So you got object keys. Those are unique, right? So now we have unique identifiers for the object on a layout that has an ID, so we can identify that this object indeed was changed in some way. So when you do look at layout objects, if you turn that on, it'll look at every single layout object before and after and tell you what's changed. And there's a lot. So when you're using comparison, all you have to do is go to here. So this is my current list of my analyses. And when you select one, it basically anchors itself there and shows you what came before it.
Okay.
So now I'm looking at, like, if I had 4 analyses and I selected the most recent, here I would see 3. Okay. So I have the most recent one. I can compare it to the first one. And as soon as I do that, some interesting stuff happens on the dashboard.
So
The
you compare
dashboard,
everything that's gone before.
yeah, dashboard lights up with things that have changed at the high level, just numbers. So like, hey, I added 30 scripts. I added 1,400, steps in whatever scripts.
And you took 2 layouts away.
I took 2 layouts away, exactly. But it gets more interesting. So if you dive into scripts, you'll see like these ones with the plus sign. These are new. These ones with the little delta means that, okay, so here the name changed from select product ID to select ID product. The product got deleted. Yeah, so what that is additions, modifications, and deletions. So not the instances of the additions, that's the first number, and the number of characters. So we had 1 deletion of 8 characters. So we removed the word product and a space. So that's what it changed to. But if you look at something that has like an actual script change, let's see if I can find one. Okay, so because we don't have step numbers in script, what we do is we take the entire script and we turn it into a document. And when you do that, you actually see the document before and after, and these things were additions. So I have 1 addition of 84 characters. So that's the addition. That didn't exist before. So that's available in the view when you're like drilling in here. Okay, but if you go back to the dashboard and you go to comparison and you view the actual report, whoops, let me see here. What did I do? Compare. There's a report that gets generated, and this report is very similar to what we just looked at. So here's all the so like I'm looking at scripts, and 30 were added, 36 were modified. So here's the 36 that were modified, and here's the before and after, and it tells you, like if you look on the far right, what it was that got changed. So name changed. Here the document changed, meaning the entire script. So that's the one we were just looking at. And if you click on it, you have a side-by-side view of before and after. So anyway, that's very useful if you're trying to see what changed and what changes were made in one version versus another. And so that's a comparison. And these are all the areas that you can compare. So I can turn these on by selecting it, and then just type in a name here, and then run comparison, and then I'll generate an actual report that I can then look at. So the color, you can set the color options for additions, modifications, and deletions. We have object location. You can have it absolute or relative. Okay, so what's confusing about that is if you have a popover, and in the popover you've got a slide panel, and in the slide panel you've got some portal in the third panel. You'll never see that panel on the. It's not up here, But there's right.
I had that problem. I was like, why isn't it there?
Yeah. So if you look at your layouts and you say, oh, I want to look at maybe this layout here, home. Okay. So I'm clicking on the objects, and this graphic. Okay, what's cool about Inspector is like this icon tells me this graphic object is contained within a group button located at this location. Click to navigate to this object. So I click here, click there, and it will take me to its parent. So then what you can do is once you've gone far enough up the stack, all you need to find is where that is. and then you can unravel the Lotus. Yeah.
Make it groups, right?
Right.
That's cool.
So that's what and these numbers are absolute numbers. So it's easier to find those things. And then, the iconography of what's there, so that you can look at something and say what it is. And you did a whole, video on local CSS, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So like that's cool because over here
I've done lots of this.
you'll see the percent of objects that have local CSS. Is that right? Let's see here. What does the tooltip say? Percent of objects that have either a default or a custom style. Okay. So.
Well, opening window is a completely pure white window, so with nothing on it. So that's.
So 0% of 0 of 0 is 100%.
That's an interesting. Okay,
Not
so that's you might want to mathematically fix that one. Well, actually, it's one object.
One object, and it's just a text object, and it has a custom style. And you can get that. So I didn't show that, but you could, for example, if you're drilled into a view like this, like counts view, and I'm looking at these 76 objects on the layout. This upper view up here tells me there's 76 objects in that layout, and over here on the right, that's telling me that 60% of the objects
custom CSS.
Yeah.
Default styles. They have a style.
Yeah. They have a local style.
Have a local style.
You can
So
create.
you can combine that with Wallace's tool, and that's where you know where to focus on.
Well, the problem is that a lot of it, a lot of like even if you just put like a rounded edge on one corner of it, then you've applied even a little snippet it adds to its thing, even though you have to do it.
You don't have to.
Well,
you want to.
You don't want to stop. Yeah, the problem is it gets into a UI issue.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm open to questions. So.
Do we have questions from the peanut gallery?
Oh, by the way, you have these. Notice the nesting right here.
Yes.
So like I look at script triggers, I can instantly go to script triggers. Here's all my script triggers. But another way to look at it would be to go here and say I want to just look at my layout triggers. So there's some detailed navigation with that. So if you guys use it and you find things that you want to have in it, or hey, it could be better.
Lucky to use half of it.
Well,
this is really awesome.
No, but I mean, if you come across something and say,
to wrap my head around what you've shown me already.
Yeah, there's a lot of work to consistency. So anywhere you go, I go look at variables, or I go look at value lists, right? I'm always looking at where am I, what am I looking at, and how many references. 3 main important things, and then the references are here. I can click on them, I can see them. So the consistency is across the board. The thing that's a little bit different in terms of consistency is when you look at databases. Databases, this view is hard to represent because there's so many friggin' columns, right? Yeah. So like this is what we have now, and this is the version, like a screenshot of what we have now. Okay, so multi-file system. Okay, and this is the future, the next version, what it's going to look like. Notice the difference? Okay, so like this one here, I have to toggle on these radio buttons to see those things. In the next version, what we're going to have is like this list. So you already see, like by database, I'm looking at all my base tables, all my fields, in the schema, the layout objects, etc., etc. So it's all in one view. Much like what you have when you look at, the stuff that's on the dashboard. I can see everything, except, we have a lot of granularity exposed as well. So if we collapsed all these, you'd have like, that what you have on the other thing. So that's the one thing I didn't show is the database summary screen that you can, view right now with these numbers, which is not as helpful as having them all in view. And so that's the improvement that we're making. And then the last thing I guess I'll show you is the versions, FileMaker versions. So here's the versions. Here's 13. So you're making use of 2 functions in 13, 18 references of that, script steps, 6 script steps that are new to 13, and 43 references, etc., etc. So
that's really cool. Let's give him a hand.
Okay.
Everyone.
Thank you.
Henry Bozeman.